The knock came just as the morning sun broke through the cracked curtains, spilling thin gold light across the worn-out floor. It wasn't loud, but it was firm, confident, deliberate, like whoever stood outside already knew the door would open. Armin Qureshi froze mid-step, his hand still wrapped around a chipped mug of tea, his heart suddenly beating harder than it had any right to. No one ever came this early. No one ever came at all. And yet, something about that knock felt like the beginning of something he couldn't yet understand. When he finally opened the door, shielding his eyes from the brightness outside, he wasn't prepared for what he saw. A sleek black car was parked beside the dusty road, looking absurdly out of place in front of his modest, fading house. And standing there, dressed in understated elegance, was a woman whose presence seemed to shift the very air around her. She wasn't just wealthy. She carried the quiet authority of someone who had seen both power and loss. Her name, though Armin didn't know it yet, was Sabine Romani, a millionaire whose life had crossed continents. But today, somehow, it had led her to his doorstep. Before we continue this emotional journey, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartfelt Stories if you believe in kindness and second chances. Because stories like this remind us that even in the hardest moments, life can still surprise us. Armin's life had never been easy, but the last 3 years had carved something deeper into him. Ever since his wife, Mahira, passed away after a sudden illness, the world had turned quiet and heavy. He was left with his 6-year-old daughter, Hurain, who had her mother's eyes and a smile that felt like sunlight after rain. She was the only thing that kept him moving, even on days when everything felt like it was falling apart. Money had always been tight, but after Mahira's passing, it became a constant shadow. Armin worked long hours repairing old bicycles and sometimes fixing electrical wiring for neighbors, earning just enough to get by. His hands were rough, his clothes worn, and his dreams, once filled with hope, had been reduced to simple wishes. Food on the table, school fees paid, and a roof that didn't leak when it rained. And yet, despite everything, there was a quiet dignity in the way he lived. He never begged. He never complained. He carried his struggles like a silent promise to his daughter, to his late wife, and maybe even to himself. The woman standing at his door seemed to notice all of this in a single glance. Her eyes lingered on the peeling paint, the broken gate, and the small pair of shoes by the entrance. But there was no pity in her gaze, only something deeper, something searching. Without saying much at first, she stepped slightly closer, as to try and confirm something she had long suspected. Armin felt uneasy, unsure why someone like her would come here. His mind raced through possibilities. Debt, mistake, trouble, but none of them made sense. Hurain peeked from behind the doorframe, clutching her small doll, her curious eyes fixed on the stranger. The woman's expression softened instantly when she saw her. It was a look that didn't belong to a stranger. It was familiar, almost personal. What happened next changed everything. The woman revealed that she had been searching for this house, for him, for months. Years ago, before her life transformed into one of wealth and influence, she had been someone very different. She had once been lost, struggling, and on the verge of giving up. And in that moment, when no one else had stopped, Armin had. It had been a rainy evening, long before Mahira fell ill. Armin had found a stranded woman by the roadside, her car broken, her phone dead, and her spirit nearly shattered. Without asking questions, he had offered help. He had brought her home, given her warm tea, and insisted she stay safe until morning. He never asked for money, never even asked her name. To him, it had been a simple act of humanity, but to her, it had been everything. That woman had been Sabine. She had gone on to rebuild her life, turning her struggles into success. But she never forgot the man who helped her when she had nothing to give in return. For years, she searched, following small clues, determined to find him again, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. And now she stood at his door, finally face to face with the person who had unknowingly changed her life. Armin struggled to remember at first. For him, it had been just another day, another act of kindness. But as she described the night, the rain, the warmth of a small home filled with laughter and hope, it slowly came back to him. The realization left him speechless. Life, it seemed, had quietly brought that moment full circle. Sabine didn't come with charity. She didn't come to fix his life. What she offered was something far more meaningful, a chance. She spoke of opportunities, of education for Lorraine, of stable work for Armin that respected his skills and dignity. She wanted to help not because she pitied him, but because she believed in him. For the first time in years, Armin felt something unfamiliar rising within him. Hope. The days that followed were not magically perfect. Change never is. Armin hesitated, unsure if he should accept help, afraid of losing his independence. But every time he looked at Lorraine, every time he remembered the dreams Mahira once had for their daughter, he knew he couldn't let pride stand in the way of a better future. Slowly, things began to shift. Lorraine started attending a good school, her laughter growing louder, her dreams bigger. Armin found steady work in a workshop supported by Sabine's network, where his skills were valued and his efforts recognized. The house was repaired, not transformed into something extravagant, but made safe, warm, and full of life again. More than anything, the loneliness that once filled their days began to fade. Sabine became a part of their lives, not as a distant benefactor, but as someone who truly cared. She visited often, bringing stories, warmth, and a sense of belonging that had been missing for so long. Armin realized that sometimes life doesn't reward you immediately. Sometimes the good you do disappears into the world, unseen, unacknowledged. But that doesn't mean it's gone. It stays, it grows, and one day, when you least expect it, it comes back in ways you could never imagine. As the sun set one evening, casting a golden glow over the once-forgotten house, Armin stood outside, watching Lorraine laugh as she played. The same doorway where everything had changed now felt like a symbol of something greater, a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can echo across time. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps keep these heartfelt stories alive and reaching those who need them most. And before we end, here's a special request. Tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment where kindness came back to you in an unexpected way? Because in the end, Armin's story isn't just about struggle or success. It's about something deeper. It's about the invisible threads that connect us, the quiet moments that define us, and the truth that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Sometimes, the person you help today becomes the miracle you need tomorrow.